My good friend from Canada, Ezra Levant, is with us from Rebel News. How are you, Ezra?
Glenn, I'm great. I mean, Canada is a laboratory of bad ideas, and MAID, medical assistance in dying, is one of them. But you, by intervening in a particular case, have shaken up the entire national conversation. And I guess sometimes it takes a foreigner to talk about Canada for Canadians to realize we've been sleepwalking. And I think you've shaken things up. I don't even think you meant to do it. I think you meant to fix a problem.
I did.
But you've got our whole country talking. I don't know if you know that.
I don't. I know that they've been assigning all kinds of horrible intent behind it. But my only thing is, I mean, Ezra, you know me. I care about humanity, and here's somebody who doesn't have cancer, who's not terminally ill.
Right. She
just can't get health care. And look, I may not be for socialized medicine, but I'm not a Canadian. And I have great Canadian friends. My brother's wife is Canadian. She has been defending Canada's health care since I was 14 years old. But it doesn't work right now because you've overwhelmed the system with immigrants, et cetera, and so you have to start rationing. And you don't have enough doctors, you don't have enough hospitals, you just don't have it. And you've introduced what we would call the complete lives system, which is part of Obamacare, which scares the hell out of me. You have it called MAID, and it's not right. It's immoral. And I know first of all, I hope, Ezra, that nobody thinks that I am bad-mouthing the doctors. The doctors in Canada are exactly the same as the doctors up here or down here. They got into it because they want to help people. I got to believe that they are just as frustrated as we are with our system and as our doctors are. But somebody has got to stand up and go, wait a minute, we're now killing people.
Yeah.
That's not the answer here.
This all started because of the case of a woman in Regina, Saskatchewan named Jolene Van Alstyne. And ironically, it was the Canadian state broadcaster called the CBC that talked about her situation. She has a very rare disease called NPHPT. I'm not even going to try and spell that all out. And she's had surgeries and she can't get better. She's in pain, has been for years. And so in Canada, when you're in chronic pain, and even if you're just depressed, they will offer you physician-assisted suicide. They call it MAID. They've renamed it because they rename it every few years because people really figure out what it is. And I think that's why when you said, let's try and help this lady, let's try and get this lady proper medical care in the States, you actually did two things. First of all, you embarrassed our socialized medicine system that can't treat a woman and that has huge lineups. And like you say, the doctors in Canada are good, but you can't get to them. There's months, even years in waiting. So the first thing you did was you embarrassed our socialized medicine system. But I think you did something worse in the eyes of the state broadcaster. You showed that what's happening is people who are languishing in pain are being directed towards suicide. And they do this in our Veterans Affairs Department. I don't know if you know that. Veterans suffering PTSD. And so that's why they're mad at you. They would normally love you for helping a woman in need. But because you've embarrassed the socialized medicine and because you've revealed the suicide pact, they hate you for it.
Look, that it's not my intent to embarrass anybody.
I know no one thinks this.
I heard. Yeah, I saw this story and I'm like, that's not right. Yeah. And I'm so concerned, Ezra, the entire West is about to collapse. We have so many things that are coming our way that if we don't have our principles lined up, that life matters, that there is a reason to live, that we should do everything we can to help one another. When I read the quote from Jolene, and she said, my friends don't come and visit anymore. I go to bed now at 6:00 at night because I just want the day to end, and I can't live this way anymore. I completely understand. My heart broke for her. I completely understand it. And I can understand why she would say, there's no hope. I might as well die. But that's not the answer. It's humans that can't be the answer. And so this shouldn't be about Canada, the United States, Donald Trump, or your premier, whatever. This should just be about what is the right thing as a human? What should we be doing? And it's not this.
Well, and I'm sure your intervention has surprised her because someone cares about it. Now, I know her husband does. I know her.
Yes.
But you've shown that someone can care about a stranger motivated by their own love for humanity. And by the way, remember what the doctor's creed is: do no harm. They call it the Hippocratic Oath. So to have doctors involved in medical assisted dying is so contrary to literally thousands of, centuries or even millennia of that healing profession. Part of health is mental health.
Oh.
And they've thrown in the towel in Canada because, again, think back to that socialized medicine. If you take people out of the lineup through MAID, medical assistance in dying, you've saved the government money, you've shortened the lineup. So why wouldn't you do it? And it's now one of the leading causes of death in Canada. I don't have the statistics in front of me with the exact number, but it's an astonishing large number. Let me throw one more thing.
It's top 5, and you have 37. Hang on just a second. You have 37.4 deaths per 100,000 people due to MAID now in Canada. This is 2023. And in America, we are told we have an epidemic. We're out of control with the number of deaths of people that die here in America from gunshot. That is 13 people per 100,000. Wow. You're 37 on MAID. Which one of us has an epidemic that needs to be addressed?
Wow. You know what? And in Canada, various medical associations have proposed that the cause of death for someone who is suicided this way be what their underlying illness was. So if someone is killed in a medical assistance in dying, it's not put suicide, it's not put MAID as the cause of death. They would put, in this case, a thyroid problem. Thyroid problem didn't kill this lady. God willing, she'll recover. But if she were to be killed through MAID, they wouldn't put MAID on her death certificate. It would be this thyroid case. So they're hiding the extent of it.
I have the last prescription written by Joseph Mengele.
Oh my God.
For the Children's Hospital. And it is for 1,000 liters of luminol. 1,000 liters of luminol, it's a sleeping medicine. It would put a whole community down. 1,000 liters. And it was written for the Children's Hospital. And if I'm not mistaken, Ezra, we should look this up. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't put luminol as the killer down on the children either. They put whatever it is they were in. I know nobody wants to think they're going down the same path because that's such a horrible thing. But that's it always starts with compassion. It always does. Yeah. And, with the Germans had the chart. How many potatoes are you able to make and feed the German people or the German army? And how many are you taking? And if you don't produce more than you take, we can't keep you alive. That is the same thing that is saying now in Canada.
Yeah. I read that in communist China, part of their one-child program, they would say, don't have a child, it just eats. Have another pig in your farm to feed people, like to dehumanize people. It's a common theme, what you've just described in Nazi Germany. And that's why after the Second World War, there was the so-called Nuremberg doctors' trial. Because so many of the people in charge of the Holocaust were medical doctors. It wasn't all military men. And that's where we got a lot of these codes, like informed consent. You can't treat someone without their consent. And I think that a lot of the medical assistance in dying, which they call a treatment insanely, they're high pressuring these people. And I don't know, there's some people out there, like there was on the abortion side, there were some abortion providers who it was like a mission to get their number as high as possible. It was a kind of mental illness. I think it's the same way with some MAID activists, these doctors who love euthanasia. And so they say yes to any request. There's this special pathology. It's a kind of anti-doctor that is a doctor and that loves to rack up numbers. I know that sounds madness, but we see it in Canada. There are MAID doctors who will grant you consent to kill you in your first meeting with them in Canada. And it's happened step by step by step. So your intervention, I think, woke up a lot of people because, it's not widely covered what's going on. And Canadians, we have a bit of an inferiority complex. And when something makes it big in the States, when they're talking about us in the States, they're talking about us. So your intervention, which was done because you wanted to help one person, it has started this national conversation, and the state broadcaster is very unhappy with you, Glenn.
I know, Ezra. I just, look, I grew up, just south of the Canadian border in the Pacific Northwest. I love Canada. I've always loved Canada. I love Canadians, and I, while we disagree politically, I'm not a Canadian. You do what you do, and it saddens me that if anything that I did makes it sound like I'm crapping on Canada or anything else, all I'm asking is we're all humans. We're all humans first. Canadian, American, that comes second. We're humans first. And if we stop seeing people as humans, we lose what makes the West the West.
Yeah. Oh, you're
and you
right.
can become China. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. We have a culture of life. Other parts of the world have a culture of death. We don't believe in suicide bombers. That's why on 9/11, when those planes went into those buildings, a billion people around the world said that those can't be Americans who did it, because no American pilot would do that. We have a culture of life we knew something was wrong, because that is not our civilizational way.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's the commandment that God gave, as you go into the chosen land, choose life.
Yeah.
It's why if there are wounded and injured on a battlefield after a war and they're on the other side, we save them too.
Yeah.
We don't kill our wounded. We believe life is the number one priority. Yeah. And if we lose that, we're not worth saving.
Yeah. You caused one interesting thing to happen. The province of Canada called Saskatchewan, where this patient Jolene Van Alstyne lives, the provincial premier there, that would be like your governor, he's actually a pretty good guy. He's one of the more sensible conservative premiers in the country, but he still presides over this socialist system. And so he saw your coverage and he said, "Oh, Jolene, no, you don't have to go to the States. We'll get you set up here. We'll get it taken care of in Canada." And maybe that's possible, by the way, but it's only because when it would be like the governor saying, "I'm going to fix this. I'm going to call the hospital myself." Like, sure, of course, when the absolute top dog politician in a province gets involved, you can make things happen quickly. But not everyone gets that kind of inside treatment. It's because they're responding to the political challenge that your care posed to them. So it might end up, I don't know, maybe you can give us an update on the case. It might end up that this lady, Jolene Van Alstyne, gets her treatment in Saskatchewan, but it's only because the premier intervened. And it shouldn't have to be that way, that you have the luck of having a connected friend. And that's one of the problems in socialized medicine. If you have an inside track, if you got a family member or a friend who's a doctor or a nurse, you'll be able to jump the queue. That's just how it was in the Soviet Union. Can you jump the queue?
What's the difference then between a capitalist free market system that everybody said they were trying to get away from? I said, it will be something that will decide. If it's not money, it will be connections. It will be power. It'll be something that you jump. That's just human nature. Socialism it denies human nature, and that's its biggest problem. I will tell you though, this is something that I've really wrestled with, because look, I heard this story. Stu, my executive producer, just told the story to me a couple of days ago on the air live. I didn't know anything about it. He tells me the story, and it just hit me. And I said, you know what? I'll pay for it. Get her down here. I'll pay for it. I wasn't even thinking, I wasn't thinking like, what is that going to cost?
Yeah.
But I have that ability. If need be, I do have that ability. And then as this thing went on, two things happened. My wife was like, what is that going to cost? And I'm like, I don't know yet. And the second thing that happened was I started feeling bad, because I know there are people like this all over America. I know there are people like this all over Canada. And you can't do that for everybody. And so I was just moved emotionally. And that's the problem with the premier. You've got to fix the system. You can't fix just this one. Right. I personally can maybe help save one. But if we want to change the world, we have to look at the whole problem and say, do we want to go this way? First, let's stop the hemorrhaging. 37 people per 100,000 dying from assisted suicide is an epidemic. And by the way, that's 2023 numbers. 25 is going to be much higher. And you're still talking about now adding teenagers and the mentally handicapped. My gosh, the mentally ill. No, please don't go this way, Canada. But we just have to fix the problem and not rely on special favors from me or anybody else.
Yeah. Well, what's the latest? Are you at liberty to describe what the latest news is? Because you got the premier who's saying, no, don't go to the States. He's really trying to avoid the embarrassment of having a foreign country fix his medical system. Can you tell us where things stand now?
So I can tell you, I'm not involved. She has a right to privacy, and I don't want to know her medical, history. So I can tell you this. She is now the guy who invented the procedure for this surgery, was on the phone with me almost all day yesterday and last night, and with her and her husband. He's going over her medical records. He's consulting with a team at Tampa General, which is the best hospital for this. Wow. We have her transportation all taken care of. One problem we have is her passport. She doesn't have a passport, or her husband doesn't have a passport. They're going to try to get a passport. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen there. But the other thing is when I was talking to the doctor, he's like, let's look at everything here. Let's make sure that we're not going in and doing a surgery. It's failed a couple of times already. Should we look and say, is that the problem, or is something else? So he's putting a team together to look at everything around her. And, one of the best endocrinologists in America volunteered to help.
That's incredible. Well, you've got a lot.
It is a miracle of the season.
Yeah, you've got a big megaphone, and when you call for help, a lot of people answer. That's really crowdsourcing at its best, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I hope she gets the solution. It sounds like this multidisciplinary approach is probably a good thing, but like you say, that's her own personal medical privacy. I hope.
I can just tell you this. I do too. I can tell you this. She's not going to have to worry about paying for it. She's not going to have to worry about her travel. She's not going to have to worry about her husband, where he's going to stay. She's not going to have to worry about doctors. She's not going to have to worry about the hospital. Wow. All of that's taken care of. Now we just need to she needs to decide what is the best treatment for her. Right. She doesn't need to have MAID. We want to save her life. That is the goal.
Wow. By the way, I think they should be able to get a passport in an expedited way. So hopefully that barrier will be removed. I think I read somewhere that the Trump administration was looking at issuing some sort of a temporary permit. I don't know how that stuff works, but hopefully that hurdle can be overcome. Well, listen, I love what you're doing. One of the things that we model ourselves after at Rebel News that you guys do and all your different projects is you tell stories, but every once in a while you stop and try and fix a problem. And
I know.
That's why
that's what I love.
Your Nazarene Fund. That's one of our favorite things about what you and Mercury One do is, sure, you tell a story about Christian persecution, but it's not enough just to be a voyeur. You've got to stop and fix it every now and then. And in a very small way, we try and model ourselves after what you guys have done. And in fact, we went to Iraq a couple of times. I don't know if you remember, I think you do, that we sent our reporters to Iraq with your guys. And that's part of I think that's part of living the belief.
And
so we salute you for that.
I hope I don't say anything out of turn, and I guess you can edit it out if it's not good. But I think people should know that you personally have also given, and you personally have stepped up in many ways, and it says a lot about your character.
Well, you're very nice.
Nobody knows that, but
well, we were looking for a charity that we could trust on the ground because it's a very sketchy place. If you go in with a donation, you got to make sure it's going to those that actually need it. And in the end, the Nazarene Fund was was our solution for who can we actually trust
Yeah.
that this money won't be sent to a Swiss bank account by a local warlord or something. Anyways, Glenn, it's great
Well,
to catch up with you. I salute you. I know that by imposing your energy on this issue, you will cause a solution to be found, whether it's in Saskatchewan or in Tampa. I do not know. I know that you will cause Jolene Van Alstyne to avoid MAID, God willing, and hopefully you'll have sparked a larger conversation. So thank you on behalf of Canadians who need your amplification.
Thank you. God bless you.